Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here, and today we have a Supercharger network update, which is a nice little throwback for those of you that have listened to the podcast for a long time. I used to do those every day at the start of the podcast. We also have some news on Berlin Paint, a small little update slash rumor, I guess I would call it, on Battery Day, and then news on Daimler and Nikola Motors as well. Tesla stock with another really strong day today, even though it was relatively quiet news-wise, finishing up 7.2% to $449.76. That compared to the NASDAQ up 1.2%. We'll start off with the Supercharger news. This is coming from Brian MacSC on Twitter, who is a longtime listener and I believe Patreon supporter of the podcast, who happened to stumble across a Supercharger network location under construction near Firebaugh, California. As far as I can tell, this location had not yet been noticed, so upon Brian tweeting these out, Tesla Motors Club forum members did some digging on this and they were actually able to find the permit for the site, as well as some planning documents for sort of a conglomerate travel center at this location. Those documents disclosed that Tesla will have 56 spots for Tesla charging at this travel center. Assuming each of those spaces has a supercharger associated with it, 56 chargers would put this as the largest supercharger location in North America and possibly in the world, surpassing Kettleman City in the United States at 40 chargers, and then I believe in China there are a couple locations that have 50 chargers. So pretty exciting. This location is between San Francisco and LA. Driven miles, it's about 230 miles from LA and about 150 from San Francisco. It's not clear if these will be all version 3 superchargers, but I would have to imagine that they would be. And as far as other features go, it looks like about 2/3 of them, 38 of the 56, will be pull-through, hopefully accommodating the use of a trailer and making things a bit easier for the Cybertruck and potentially also accommodating the Semi. Of course, since the unveil of the Semi, we haven't heard much more about Tesla's megacharger plans, so hopefully we get a bit of an update on that during Battery Day. Alright, next today is an update on Giga Berlin. Gigafactory_4 on Twitter has been following the Gigafactory development closely, and it looks like some equipment has started to arrive, and some of that equipment carries branding for Geico Taikisha, which is a paint shop solutions provider based in Milan, Italy. There's also some signage there that is co-branded between that company and Tesla. Geico Taikisha describes their approach by saying, quote, "Innovation is our weapon of choice. We're constantly increasing the technological possibilities in order to meet the needs of the most demanding customers in a highly competitive sector," end quote. They also seem to be heavily focused on sustainability in their paint shop operations. They have a project called the Parties Project, and they say, quote, "With the Parties Project launched in 2005, Geico Taikisha was the world's first company to offer a zero environmental impact paint shop, reducing consumption by 70%, end quote. So without really knowing much more about the company, it does seem like a pretty good fit for Tesla. We know Tesla has pretty big aspirations with the paint shop in Giga Berlin. Elon has talked about it many times. And even setting that aside, it's good to start to see some production equipment on the grounds of Giga Berlin. And though I haven't seen it yet, maybe this gives us another milestone to compare the progress with Giga Shanghai. From what I can tell, it looks like paint shop equipment started being put in place at Giga Shanghai in early to mid-August of 2019, with production, of course, then starting about 4 months later. So if that's the case, and if Berlin follows a similar timeline, that could potentially project out to a start of production in January. Probably best to keep the expectations for later than that, but I do think it's helpful to keep an eye on how those timelines compare. Alright, next up today is something that could end up being completely nothing, but I thought it was at least interesting enough to share. Earlier today, Fred Lambert over at Electrek tweeted out a couple of images of him holding a pretty significantly sized battery cell. And Fred asked, if anyone has seen this battery cell before or you have some information about them, please reach out to him. And he says also, by the way, this new cell may or may not have been made by Tesla. I don't really have much speculation to add to this. A couple people on Twitter were saying that it does look like a tabless design, which we've talked about in past episodes. But really just pointing it out to say, could be something to keep an eye out for the next couple of days if Electrek is able to dig up a little bit more information on whatever this ends up being. Last couple of pieces of news here today. First on Daimler. Daimler has reached a settlement with the US government to pay $1.5 billion in settlements and penalties to both the US and California state to resolve allegations of Daimler using emissions test cheating software to conceal the actual emissions from their vehicles. Even with the settlement, and despite the fact that engineers at the EPA found software designed to cheat the emissions tests, Daimler denies the wrongdoing, saying, quote, "As stated in the consent decrees and the class action settlement, the company denies the authorities' allegations as well as the class action plaintiffs' claims and does not admit any liability to the United States, California, plaintiffs, or otherwise," end quote. So, I don't know, kind of disappointing to see a settlement of that nature that doesn't require the admission of fault with such seemingly strong evidence against Daimler. Alright, last thing today is a quick update on Nikola Motors. It sounds like from the comments yesterday that most of you preferred that I don't do a significantly deep dive on this, but just stick to the high-level updates, which I'm totally fine with. If Trevor Milton wanted to come back on the podcast, I would probably do that. Otherwise, we'll stick with these updates. Anyway, today, the Wall Street Journal and other outlets are reporting that the Justice Department has started to also investigate Nikola Motors due to the allegations that they had misled investors by making exaggerated claims about their technology. I know that sounds similar to yesterday's report. Yesterday was the SEC, today the DOJ. So not looking great for Nikola. That is where we'll leave it for today, though. As always, thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and sign up for notifications. If you've tried to sign up for notifications and YouTube isn't letting you, try unsubscribing, resubscribing, and then trying notifications again. That seems to fix it. Just some sort of bug, I'm not sure why that is. But also make sure you're following me on Twitter at Tesla Podcast, and I'll see you tomorrow for the Wednesday, September 16th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.